Hello everybody, welcome to the channel. My name is PJP and welcome to my review of the season 1 of the original Charm TV series. Before we get into my review, I'm just gonna give you a bit of a backstory of me and my relationship with the show. The first time ever that I heard about the show was in 2006 when I was 6 years old. And I remember that back then my female cousin loved watching the show, and I kind of watched a little because of her. I think I might have watched specifically one episode of season 1, the one with Indigo. But I don't remember if I really got into it back then. Later, like 8 years later, around 2014, I remember that there were reruns on TV of the show, so I ended up watching more of it. Specifically that one episode in which Prue reveals to Andy that she's a witch properly, not when she used her truth spell earlier in the season. I remember that I watched that episode then, but again, I didn't really remember most of it. Before I started watching the show right now, I only remember the big events. Like, I remember Prue's death, I know that Andy leaves, I know that Coase shows up, and I know that Paige shows up too. So the big events are already spoiled for me in a way. But still, I haven't watched most of it, so there was plenty of things to enjoy. And I gotta admit, I'm surprisingly enjoying the normal lives of the characters. Like, at first I thought that about the show, since it's a witch show, it's about magic and everything, that I would be more interested in that. But while I kind of like it, surprisingly the daily lives of the characters, of the sisters, and even of Andy are much more interesting. Like, I really enjoy seeing Andy do police work. I enjoy Prue and her job at the Action House. I enjoy Piper and her restaurant shenanigans. And Phoebe, she doesn't have a job, but I also enjoy her struggling to find a job and everything. So just the daily lives and everything that happens is so much more entertaining, honestly. And that is kind of a good thing, because I don't know how big of a budget they had back then, but the CGI is not good. And yes, it was 1996, but still it was pretty bad. Though I don't really care about CGI, I can really look past it if it is otherwise enjoyable. Though there are some parts that are very fucking cheesy, like specifically in the first episode, I think it is, when it's revealed that Piper's boyfriend is a demon. He literally makes this face. I mean, how can you not laugh at that? You might be surprised by what I'm about to say, but my favorite character this season is actually Andy. Don't get me wrong, I really enjoyed the banter and the constant bickering between the sisters. It's actually really interesting to watch, as I mentioned, the daily lives thing. But I feel the biggest part and the biggest thing about this season was honestly Andy, especially from the episode in which Prue properly revealed her secret to him onwards. It was actually really interesting of him knowing that they are witches, and kind of how that broke the formula a little, because up to that point, the basic premise of an episode, it was something magical happens, the girls have to deal with it, the girls have to save somebody, and in turn they end up getting questioned by the police, sometimes Andy, and slowly it keeps adding up, and Andy starts to question shit. He knows that Prue is hiding something, but she can't tell him for some reason. I mean, to be fair, in that episode in which Prue uses truth spell to actually tell Andy the truth, but also to see his reaction to it, to see if she could properly reveal the secret to him. His reaction back then kind of justifies why she hid it, and I'm gonna get into it more later. But at first it wasn't justified, but they kind of justified it there. As I said, he was a huge part of the second half of the season. So once it was revealed that they were witches, it really broke up the formula, and he was kind of actually dealing with it himself. Like, there was one episode in which there was a ghost of a killer who died in Alcatraz or something, who ends up going around trying to kill the people who put him in prison. And Prue tells Andy, and they go together, and as they go to save one of the people, when they get into the room, Andy doesn't see anything, but he still barged in with a gun as if he could kill the ghost. But Prue's power was actually helpful, and it was kind of interesting. And then honestly came my favorite storyline, which only was like there for like 3 or 4 episodes maybe, where Andy actually got started to get investigated by internal affairs for the loads of unexplained cases and unfinished cases, because they ended up being unfinished because Prue actually had something to do with it. So he had to hide the fact that it was Prue, and he even had to hide it from his partner. And honestly, I really hate the reveal that one of the internal affairs guys was actually a demon. In my opinion, that fucking cheapens the whole storyline, because it was actually, to me, it was really compelling that they were actually dealing with the real life thing and not with a demon. The biggest threat was there, not for the girls, but actually for Andy. He was ready to sacrifice his job to protect this girl's secret from being revealed. And when they revealed that it was actually a demon, it kind of cheapened the whole storyline, in my opinion, and it made it feel kind of incoherent with the finale, because the finale kind of came out of nowhere, because they were building this guy, Rodriguez, up as a human villain, as a threat from the mortal world, which they don't even realize that they're gonna be allowing hundreds of demons to roam around and everything. He wasn't really built up as a demon kind of threat, so it didn't really have a weight to it, and also he was kind of a pathetic villain with how easily the girls took him out several times. And as I'm talking more about Andy, I gotta mention his out of character reaction to him learning that Prue is a witch, and I'm talking about the first time in like episode 15 or something, maybe it was earlier. As I mentioned, Prue used a truth spell so she could tell him the secret, and he would forget it on the next day. And back then his reaction was really out of character, though they kind of justified it later on. Like, for the most of the first season, for most of the episode, he's been shown that he's the kind of person who isn't necessarily into the supernatural, but he is not a skeptic towards it. Like, if he sees something supernatural, he's not gonna say no, fake news. He's gonna believe it, because they kind of showed it with the Indigo episode, which wasn't really good. It was fine. So his reaction basically to learning that Prue is a witch, because they were kind of together, Andy and Prue, for a while before the series, and they are childhood friends, and there was this kind of feeling that they were gonna end up together as a couple and everything, and have kids in the future. His reaction was literally about whether Prue could give up her powers, or if her potential children with him could give up their powers. And like, he was almost xenophobic about it in a way, and back then it didn't really make sense for his character as what he was established as to say that. Like, I can see that from his partner Daryl, which I know becomes more of a friend of the girls, and I think he also learns the secret, but didn't expect him from him. And as I said, they kind of justified it later on. because in one of the few episodes after it was revealed to him that they were witches, he learns that Prue used a truth spell on him. He criticizes Prue for not giving him more time to think about it, because he learns what his reaction was. But then he says that that reaction must have come somewhere, like it didn't just show up in him. And he kind of explains that he reacted like that back then because, while he doesn't mind it, at some point he would just want to live a normal life. So that explains it kinda, but not really. And also another thing which actually kind of became a problem in my opinion for the first episode of season 2, because I have already watched it. Might do a review of it, I'm not sure. In that episode, Prue is kind of reluctant of keeping her powers because there's a possibility of them losing their powers. And it's kind of weird. I get, again, they're kind of explaining it, but I just don't buy it as much. Because in that episode of season 1 in which she uses the truth spell on Andy, she doesn't want to lose her powers. She's proud of her powers. For the most part, she's been not necessarily the biggest fan of her powers, but he kind of is also proud of them. But in that episode of season 2, after Andy's death, which technically wasn't Prue's fault, but she still blames herself, she wanted to lose them for some reason, because there was a demon that kind of caused them to lose their powers, and she wasn't really willing to do anything because she could have stopped him from taking the book of shadows, but she didn't do anything. She hesitated, and later on when they tried to get it back, she again hesitated. And I get it, it makes sense after Andy's death that she would have second thoughts, but I don't know, it's not really justified in my opinion. But yeah, I don't think I can say anything else about the characters. As I said, Andy is my favorite character of season 1. After that, it probably would be Piper. She's definitely my favorite of the sister right now. Then it's Prue, and then it's Phoebe. If I have to say which were standout episodes for me, there's one for sure. Like, there weren't any with really cool, interesting concepts in this season. I don't know if there are gonna be any in future seasons, but one episode that particularly sticks out to me is the episode that is essentially Ghost Whisperers, if you know that show, which at some point I'm either gonna be reviewing or reacting to, depends on whichever works for YouTube. And it was essentially Ghost Whisperer because we had a character die and go to the witches and realize that they can see him, so they had to help him out, show other people that the guy who killed him is actually alive or something because he faked his death. And I love that episode because it's very much like a Ghost Whisperer episode, and I love that show. I'm not really sure whether it's a good show or not because I've mostly watched it as a kid, but I enjoyed the shit out of it when I was a kid. And yeah, I really want to do a review of it, or a reaction. One other episode that was kind of a standout, not really with a cool concept, but it was interesting because the girls ended up traveling back in time to warn their mom that a guy is going to take her powers or something. And I like that idea, and I remember watching that episode when I was little and probably in 2014 too. But yeah, I enjoyed rewatching that episode, though I thought it was gonna be with a more compelling villain, because the villain was very shit, honestly. And going back to the Ghost Whisperer episode, because I forgot to say something, the ghost character which gets killed, and this is something which I kind of love and hate when shows do this, when they introduce the perfect couple or the perfect character for one of my main characters. Like, you probably don't know it, but I'm still gonna show it as an example. There's one episode of Doctor Who in which the Doctor meets a woman who would be at that point a perfect companion for him. but they don't end up together, so the episode in a way just teases us for it, because she would be so perfect for him, and it doesn't happen. It just teases us. And honestly, I don't know if I like or hate when shows do this, because I get that if they do end up together, it's not gonna be as interesting, because both characters will essentially get what they want. And as a writer myself, I don't feel like you shouldn't give your characters what they want. That's not how it works. It just doesn't feel justified. So same thing in this episode. That character, the ghost character, is literally the perfect boyfriend for Piper, but since he's dead, they cannot be together, obviously. And again, it just teases us, because he would be perfect for Piper. They had a lot of chemistry in that episode, and it doesn't end up, because obviously she has to end up with Leo, which is still fine. And in a way, it, as I said, it's just kind of annoying, and I also kind of get it, because it would be cool if they end up together, but also they can't end up together because you can't give your characters exactly what they want, at least not all the time. And I don't think there's anything else to say, at least I can't think of anything. I'm gonna give this season overall an 8.9 out of 10. There are some worse episodes, nothing really too bad. Maybe that one episode in which they have to stop a wedding is honestly the one that sticks out as the worst. But other than that, there are not really bad episodes. They just range from cheesy to filler to really good to decent. So yeah, overall this first season was, in my opinion, 8.9 out of 10, and that score is not necessarily an objective score. It's just personally how I feel about it, and pretty much in the vacuum of its own thing. I'm not comparing it to any other show to get a rating for it. That's just how I feel about the season in its own thing. So the rating might change when I'm done with season 2 and season 3 and season 4 and yada yada yada, but that's how I feel about it now. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like and subscribe. Check out the link in the description to my Twitter if you want to follow me there, and to my Wattpad where I post my stories, cause in addition to doing all these videos on my channel, I'm also a writer. And if you do enjoy my stories or simply enjoy my videos, you can head over to Patreon or Subscribestar and pledge your support over there. But if you don't want to do that, you can still help me out by liking this video, subscribing, and especially by sharing this video with somebody who you think might enjoy it. And I think that's pretty much it for this video, so I'm gonna see you in the next one. Bye!